Hi viewers, you're watching Nurse Educatrix and we are in question paper review of surgical nursing, and this is part 2 video. Part 1 video includes essays, which includes long essay and short essay, and in part 2 video we discuss about short notes. So in short notes, there are 5 short notes given in the question paper and each carries 5 marks. What is the fourth question? That is according to the question paper order. The question number 4 is complication of general anesthesia in the immediate post-operative period, lung abscess, inflammatory bowel disease, keratitis, types of splints and their indication in fracture. So first short notes, that is question number 4, that is complication of general anesthesia in the immediate post-operative period. So they have asked complication in the immediate post-operative period in GA. So you should start with a very little introduction of what is anesthesia. It's from the Greek word called loss of sensation. What is the definition? It is a reversible state of controlled unconsciousness produced by combination of different medicines. So you produce a reversible state of controlled unconsciousness by giving some medications. What are all the complications? Here they have asked specifically immediately in the post-operative period. So it means you can mention all the immediate complication of general anesthesia. Actually, the complications of general anesthesia is divided as immediate and late complications. Here we will discuss about the immediate complication of general anesthesia, especially some important complications which we will be handling in the post-operative period. So it includes pain, nausea and vomiting, damage to the teeth, sore throat and laryngeal damage, anaphylaxis to anesthetic agents, that is 1 in 3000 cases, cardiovascular collapse, respiratory depression, aspiration pneumonitis, hypothermia, hypoxic brain damage, nerve injury and embolism. Embolism can be air, thrombus, venous or arterial embolism. So here they have given lot of complications. So as it is for 5 marks, you can explain few with few extra sentences. Like pain, you can explain them how you manage in the post-operative period. They have asked specifically post-operative period how you will manage the complications. So pain in the post-operative period, how you will manage, you administer IV analgesics and you may start on infusions, and slowly you will taper the infusion with support of the oral analgesics. So nausea and vomiting, you keep the patient in NPO and start with the sips of fluid and gradually you increase the amount as per the tolerance of the patient. And you can, for example, anaphylaxis to anesthetic agents, you can write like pre-operatively you check the patient for any allergic, and in case if they are getting a new allergic or anaphylaxis reaction, how you will manage in the post-operative period. So what you do, you start them on oxygen, you give them some corticosteroids and antihistamine drugs. So like this you can mention few of the important complications and you can write it like how you manage in the post-operative period. The next question is lung abscess. So what is the definition? It is defined as the necrosis of the pulmonary tissue and formation of cavities containing necrotic debris or fluid caused by microbial infection. So what happens in the lung abscess? The pulmonary tissue gets necrotized and the cavities will be filled with debris or fluid from the inflammatory reactions. So what are all the types of lung abscess? That is acute abscess, which is less than 4 to 6 weeks of old. Chronic abscess, if it is more than 6 weeks, we call it as chronic abscess. Primary abscess, if the patient is getting the abscess in a healthy host, we call it as primary abscess. Secondary abscess, if the patient has any other pre-existing disease conditions. For example, the patient has a history of obstructive lung disease, or if the patient is having a seizure disorder, if they are getting an aspiration pneumonia, they go into lung abscess. So in this case the patient has a secondary abscess. And the next is risk factors. Periodontal diseases, like any disease where there is inflammation in the teeth, may go into the lungs, sometimes causing lung abscess. Seizure disorders, alcohol abuse, dysphagia, All these things may lead to aspiration pneumonia, may put the patient under a risk of aspiration pneumonia, which leads to lung abscess. Immunocompromised patients, the patient may, normal flora itself will develop and cause infection in case of immunocompromised patients. So what is the etiology? Anaerobic bacteria is the reason for lung abscess. Aspiration pneumonia, as we discussed in the risk factors, most of the risk factors are due to aspiration pneumonia, which is the main reason for lung abscess and bronchiectasis. What is the pathophysiology? As we said in etiology, bacterial pneumonia, if the patient is having a bacterial pneumonia or anaerobic bacteria, while during the aspiration of content, this bacteria may move into the lungs, causing mechanical obstruction and bronchial stenosis. Slowly what happens? This bacteria may settle down in the lower airways in the lung tissues, causing infection and abscess. So if the patient is not treated for pneumonia properly, the patient may go into a lung abscess. So clinical findings, if you see, it is as same like pneumonia, as the patient will start showing signs like fever, chills, cough and breathing difficulty. All these things are almost same like pneumonia. Decreased breath sounds and dullness on percussion, you will hear it on the auscultation, assessment of the respiratory system. So what is the diagnosis? History of aspiration, you can check the patient has any other secondary problems and check whether the patient had an aspiration during the home stay. Respiratory assessment like decreased breath sounds and dullness on percussion, you will hear it if the patient has consolidation areas. Auscultation, chest x-ray and blood culture to rule out is there any bacterial pneumonia. Bronchoscopy, if the patient cannot bring out the sputum and if you want to take some sample, we do a bronchoscopy for clear visualization of the lung field also. Sputum AFB and complete blood count to check whether the patient has any inflammatory reactions. What is the management? Actually, whenever in surgical paper they ask management, if you write surgical management separately, it is of your benefit. So you have to mention the medical management, like here in lung abscess, the main medical management is antibiotic therapy. That is most common drug which we use in lung abscess is clindamycin. But there are surgical management you have to mention because it is a surgical paper. So surgical management includes lobectomy, segmental resection. Along with this, the patient should undergo postural drainage and chest physiotherapy vigorously. Of course, we are not supposed to leave the nursing management. At least you can write few diagnoses. Hypothermia, ineffective airway clearance, impaired gas exchange related to oxygen supply because there is a damage to the lung tissues, pain related to pulmonary parenchymal inflammation, activity intolerance related to imbalance between supply and demand, knowledge deficit. So these are all the nursing diagnoses, or you can write it like a nursing intervention in the essay question, short notes questions. The next short note is inflammatory bowel disease. You all know that inflammatory bowel disease is a very big disorder or a topic where you cannot write the complete thing in the 5 marks. So you have to cut short and write according to the marks. Inflammatory bowel disease is an idiopathic disease caused by dysregulated immune response to host intestinal microflora. So it happens because of the dysregulated immune response. What is the types of inflammatory bowel disease? That is ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. So here you can mention or write about what is ulcerative colitis and what is Crohn's disease, so that you can write down the symptoms and other management in common, because they have asked only inflammatory bowel disease. Don't write in detail about both the topics because you may not get the time. So they have asked IBD together. So you can explain the definition of ulcerative colitis, it is inflammation of the colon and Crohn's disease, and then you can write the other things together. So signs and symptoms: abdominal cramping, irregular bowel habits, passage of mucus without blood or pus, weight loss, fever and sweats, malaise, fatigue, arthralgias, that is pain in the joints. The patient may report bloody stools, and typical, especially it is typically seen in ulcerative colitis and less common in Crohn's disease. So perianal diseases like fistula and abscess, 50% of the patients with Crohn's disease will have fistulas and abscess. So you can mention the signs and symptoms like this. Then diagnostic test, if you see, the patient should be checked for complete blood count, ESR and CRP for inflammatory markers. Nutritional deficiency evaluation should be done with patient with ulcerative colitis or Crohn's. Stool calprotectin level is a very important test which confirms the diagnosis of IBD. And there are some autoimmune tests, that is ANCA and ASCA, which has to be done to clear the or rule out the inflammatory bowel disease. So along with this, there should be some invasive procedures like endoscopic abdominal ultrasound, barium enema, CT abdomen, which clearly explains which part is inflamed and what are all the other issues exist in the patients. The management, as I said, I have divided it as pharmacological management and surgical management. The pharmacological management, in step 1, the patient will be started with aminosalicylates, and step 2, step 1A, they will start with an antibiotics, and step 2, corticosteroid should be started, and in the step 3, if the patient is having a, it includes proctocolectomy and ileostomy. That is, proctocolectomy is removal of rectum and colon. Ileostomy is making an opening in the ileum. Subtotal colectomy, conservative resection, ileorectal and ileocolonic anastomosis. So they remove the infected part and they will anastomose it with the existing part. So these are all the surgical management done for the patient with inflammatory bowel disease. But of course, along with pharmacology and surgical, there is an important management, which is dietary management, should be explained in patient with ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. That is, like, avoid foods that produce GI discomfort. So you have to instruct the patient to avoid the food which may cause GI discomfort. Avoid the foods which trigger the pain and burning sensation. That includes like high fiber foods, high fat foods, caffeine, alcohol, so which may trigger the bowel movements and irritate the lumen. That is, bowel lumen should be avoided, like spicy foods, milk products, alcohol, caffeine. So everything should be avoided. Ensure adequate intake of fluid, carbohydrate, protein, fats, fruits and vegetables. At least they should drink 8 to 10 glasses of water to avoid dehydration, and avoid carbonated beverages like Pepsi, Cola and other things. Sip rather than gulp fluid intake. So whenever they drink water, ask them to sip the water than gulping it altogether. Eat small meals with more intervals, which may help them in the reducing the dietary problems. So these are all the dietary management you should instruct the patient with inflammatory bowel disease. Of course, next is you can add up nursing management here or nursing interventions. The next topic is keratitis, that is inflammation of the clear tissue on the front of the cornea. That is inflammation of the cornea. We call it as keratitis. The causes of the corneal inflammation is infection, injury, disease, or wearing a contact lens for a too longer time. So wearing a contact lens becomes a very common cause nowadays, causing corneal ulcer or corneal inflammation, that is keratitis. So there are two types of keratitis, that is infectious keratitis and non-infectious keratitis. Non-infectious keratitis happens because of the injury and contact lens, and whereas infectious keratitis happens because of the bacterial infection, viral infection, fungal and parasitic infections. What are the signs and symptoms of keratitis? Patient will complain of pain, redness, photophobia, that is difficulty to view a bright light, blurred vision, eye irritation and discomfort, and in some cases, especially in case of fungal keratitis, patient may have excessive tearing and discharges. So how you will diagnose the keratitis is, you can ask the patient about the history of allergy or infection or contact lens applications, and assessment of the eye with the ophthalmoscopy, and corneal biopsy or corneal scrapings can be taken and sent for culture. As I said, you should mention medical and surgical management here. Medical management includes ophthalmic fluoroquinolones, that is antibiotics, moxifloxacin. Tobramycin is a very common eye drops which is given 1 drop every hour, or with fortified cefazolin or vancomycin in other cases. So surgical management is preferred in case of fungal keratitis. So mostly fungal keratitis, they go for a surgical management, which are all debridement, that is removal of the affected tissue, penetrating keratoplasty, lamellar keratoplasty, that is repairing of the cornea, sclerocorneal patch. They can apply a sclerocorneal patch to in the affected area, or if the corneum is completely affected, they can go for corneal transplant. The nursing management includes acute pain related to trauma with increased IOP, and anxiety related to damage to sensory or lack of understanding of postoperative care, risk for injury and risk for self-care deficit related to damaged vision. The next question, the 8th question, is types of splints and their indication in fracture. So they have asked what are all the different types of splints and how they are why they are indicated in fracture. So what is the definition of splint here? It is a rigid support with padding made from metal, plaster or plastic. It is used to support, protect or immobilize an injured or inflamed part of the body. So it is a support which is given to immobilize an injured or inflamed part of the body. So here the indication is of fracture. The splints are used because of immobilization. What is the purpose of splint? To reduce or prevent contracture, increase the grip and strength, to stabilize and rest joint in ligamentous injury, to correct deformity, to support and immobilize joints and limbs. The indication of splint, it is used in fractures, sprain, joint infection, tendinovitis, acute arthritis, laceration over joints, puncture wounds, animal bites of the hands or feet. So what are the different types of splints? According to the area, the splints are classified as ulnar gutter, that is to support the metacarpal, volar splint, which helps to immobilize the wrist, thumb or thumb spica to immobilize the thumb, reverse sugar tongue, that is Colles fracture, ankle stirrup to support the ankle, posterior ankle splint, that is to support tibia and fibula, knee immobilizer to prevent the movement of the knee during the injury. So along with this, according to the area, you can explain how it helps in the fracture. According to the nature of the splint, it is classified as rigid splint, soft splint, air splints, that is inflatable splints, pneumatic splints and anatomic splints. So we have discussed the 5-mark questions. Students, this is an example of a question paper. So whenever the questions comes, you should know how to write. So the way of writing you can learn from these videos so that you can apply it to any question. So you will have an idea how to write or how to attend any question. So we will see you in part 3 video. Thank you.